welcome to the Art of Fuckery.
The Art of Fuckery.
Hell yeah. And you're all in style with your sweater.
I know. Okay. I don't just wear this on the days that we record. I have a sweater on that is Our Flag Means Death merch that I got on Amazon.
With Frenchie's cat and
yeah.
the bone from Steed's flag.
Yeah, it's very cute. And it's so soft. That's the other thing. And it's like big. Because,
That's the best.
Oversized sweaters are like life.
Yes.
And I got it just because I wanted to wear it when we podcast.
I mean, this show
is so good.
You don't need more reason.
You're just like, the show, end of story. That's why you need the merch.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. On topic, though, this episode is so fucking fun. Like, this episode really is like one of those like on point episode. Like,
I think this is my favorite one.
I was actually gonna say that.
Nice.
I was actually gonna say that because so much happens, and it feels like it's a very short episode, but it's like jam packed with all this stuff, and I think that's why it's just okay. And Buttons is so fucking unhinged in this episode, and he has so many like amazing lines,
moments.
Yeah,
his summer teeth.
Yes.
Summer tiff, summate.
Diff. Yeah, no, I love it. I love where okay, we'll get to that part. But yes. Oh no, he's so good in this episode. Like, I love that each episode kind of like gears itself towards one of the other characters. I mean, we know that Ed and Steed are like the main characters, right? And we love them. But all of the characters are so good. And Izzy in this episode is so good. Like, everyone is just so good. I fucking loved rewatching this. Like, I had to keep pausing it because there were so many good lines. And then I was like, I need to just like enjoy the show because otherwise, so.
Yeah. I had a hard time not watching the rest of the show after after finishing this episode because I was just so comfy.
Yeah.
I was knitting and I had my plushie with me. It was just so I was so comfy and then
You're so wholesome. Well, like that's what I was planning on. I had my coffee and I was like, oh, maybe I could like do a puzzle because I've been really into doing puzzles. I was like, maybe I could do a puzzle, but
nice.
I just wanted to do the notes. Okay, shall we get into this?
Yeah, let's start. The beginning is the stabbing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. So that we are on.
I'm way ahead of.
We're too excited. So
I'm already rowing towards the treasure. Too early.
This is very pirate-esque of you. Yeah. So episode 6, the Art of Fuckery, and this does not disappoint. So you go ahead. Scene 1.
We start with Ed teaching Steed how to fence. I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a weird scene because at one point Ed sort of slaps Steed on the butt, which is like, all right, sure you did that, which is gonna come back later, which is very funny.
Yeah.
And then Steed at one point is like, oh, I haven't injured myself on the sword yet today. And then he just cuts on his finger and he's like, oh, nope, here we go.
Mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was after this scene or before, but like Izzy is complaining about Steed and he says that he doesn't think Ed has any intention of like ever killing him. And that
he is before that, yeah.
Oh, that doesn't matter. But he's like, you are seduced by this imbecile.
this imbecile.
I know. I just love the way he talks. He's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, Ed's like...
I also love how they're using the word Fortnite because that word's just so fancy.
It is. Yeah. They have like... It's so funny. They mix like modern stuff with like old-timey stuff and it's so fun.
Yeah. Also, in this episode, they reference Shakespeare, which is in 1800s, which, like, just like Pinocchio, doesn't exist yet. And it's just so funny how they just don't give a crap.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I, like, didn't know, but I remember the last time we talked about it, how you were saying, like, oh, yeah, Pinocchio wasn't in that timeline. And then when he started later on when they were talking about like theater stuff and whatnot. But so after Steed like cuts himself, Ed's like, hey, like, do you want to try something more advanced? And Steve's like, yeah, sure, let's go. And he's like, stab me. And
he's
like,
excuse me, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, for real?
Yeah. Steed has no idea, and like Ed's just like, come on, like, just stab me, dude. And so
No, he's like, oh, you don't have to. But then points a gun at him like he absolutely does.
I forgot about that. I was probably taking notes when that happened. Oh, I always miss the good stuff when I'm fucking taking notes. Okay. So Steed impales him with his sword. And I'm watching this show with Andrew next to me, and Andrew goes, he just impaled him with his sword. Eyebrows.
Eyebrow wiggle.
Yeah. And so Ed endearingly
I think
says,
they allude to that, right? That it's sort of like half or that's an underlining message.
Especially after the fact, because Ed says like that Steed had missed all the important bits, and that like maybe it's a maybe
the liver. We don't even know what the thing does.
Yeah. I love how it's like
yeah.
And then as Steed is trying to get the sword out of Ed's stomach, they're like making noises, and like Ed is like moaning, and it's like this really like uncomfortable.
I thought it was more like Steed being sort of horrified. So
he
he's
was
like, oh no,
Yeah.
And Ed's like, oh, let him more.
It is. And then at the same time, like, because, you know, we know what's going on, but if you're just listening to the noises, it sounds like something else.
Yeah,
and
you see Izzy standing there
he's
near
like,
a mast, and he's like,
oh God, oh no, or something like that. He's like, Christ. Like, he's like having a hard time with it. He's like both appalled and like, I think a little jealous.
I saw someone sub it. How do you say that? When words appear on the screen underneath
They
what
subbed
you're watching. Subtitles.
Yeah, subbed it. They subbed.
He says 3 times, right? So the first time is disbelief.
Yeah.
Second is heartbroken.
Yep.
Third is enraged.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, and then he like stalks off or something.
So it's really funny.
It is. It's one of those moments like where you get the first sense of like, he's just like a jealous ex-girlfriend, you know?
Wasn't it someone said like, Izzy invented homophobia just so he could internalize it?
Oh, that's fucked. I love that though.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucked, yeah, but it's funny. Did you lose some doll parts?
It's okay, but don't worry about it. Oh, I found it.
River's holding a doll for comfort reasons. It's like a ghostly doll.
She's like white and has beautiful hair. She was a gift from my daughter, but my daughter was terrified of her, so I was like, bet. Now it's mine. And I just so happened to...
Yes, you're creepier than mine now.
I love it. She's just all white. She looks hella cool.
Yeah.
She looks like one of those like Monster High dolls, but like fancier, cooler.
Ghostly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hold on. Next scene. What are we doing again? Aren't we podcasting or something? The next scene is Steed telling the crew a scary story, and he's like, but then he had a hook for a head. And they're like, what? Like,
and they immediately go and ask, but how can he kiss? Like that's the first reason.
Their first, what's the word?
Oh man, words are failing me today.
Yeah, that's their first instinct.
Worse than normal.
Yeah, it's their first instinct to ask, like,
yeah, exactly.
How do they do that? How do they kiss?
Ed is just casually lighting his long ass pipe, dramatically long. At one point, they're like, "Doesn't Ed have a good story?"
Yep.
Or if he's afraid of something, right?
Yeah, and then Ed says there's nothing to be scared of, or that there's nothing that he is scared of.
I can't feel fear.
I can't feel fear. And he says, well, the only thing that I am scared of, or that does scare me, is the Kraken. And it's like the first part of the Kraken, which is like this tool that he ends up using throughout the episode.
Yeah.
And then he tells a story about how the Kraken killed his dad.
And everyone is just hanging on his lips. They're all so intrigued on the story. And I don't know if it was here or somewhere farther along in the show, but I was just thinking like how good of belief they all are. How easily they will just believe anything that anyone says.
Well, I don't know if it's anyone, because like Steed will try and tell them a story and they're like, you're stupid. But then
they'll just believe anything that Ed says.
Blackbeard, yeah, they're like
Blackbeard, yeah.
They're like, oh my god, legendary Blackbeard, yes, of course. And so then Steed asks Ed, like, okay, so like, how do you tap into your enemy's fears? And he's like, Maybe someday I'll tell you.
Be careful what you ask your cat for, because she might just answer.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we got to it, the funnest scene of
I know,
all.
I actually was like, this is Liz's scene. And
oh wow, I love that so
much.
much.
Yeah, and I even told, I was like, the pose that you drew and whatnot, but like my favorite is like Buttons coming in. Captain, avast ye, there's something witchy afoot.
Yeah, but it's just he throws the curtain back and he's like, Captain! And Steve just scares awake. And yeah, he says something which is afoot, and then he runs off, and you just hear his little tapping of his feet. It's so funny.
Yeah, then like it's already like Buttons is just like the star of this show, or the star of this episode, in my opinion.
Yeah. This fox abnormal. And then he sort of wiggles his tongue and it's like, tastes abnormal too. As if it wasn't weird enough that the fog was
green. Yeah. It's like,
Ed is being super dramatic.
Yeah, he's like trying to scare everybody. It's like, I can't even.
Oh, I drew this scene, by the way, which was so fun.
Yeah, you have to post it on the Instagram.
Yeah,
but Steve's like, "Where's Ed?" And then Ed's like, "Over here, child." But he's like posing. I forget like how he poses.
He hangs there or something, and he's like, I don't remember what he says, but it's just so funny. Either. And then Steve is just entirely enthralled by this whole fuckery.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so funny. Everyone is completely terrified, and Steve is just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like
oh, and the Swede throws himself overboard because he's like, every man for himself.
I didn't know who it was, but like at before that happens, Lucius gets bit by Buttons.
Oh yeah, he's over there. And then
he's like, sorry, I thought you was a demon.
You triggered me fight or bite response.
Yeah. And then Lucius is like, is this a splinter? And he's like, oh, that'll be from my summer teeth.
Yeah.
And then he does this like little
teeth, some ain't.
I love that when he says that though, he does like this little like
oh yeah.
Like proud, like I have some teeth and I don't have
some. Yeah. And Izzy's trying to get Ed down from his hanging things. It's so funny. And they're just screaming at each other. Izzy's completely fed up, so he leaves.
Yeah, no, like that scene is so funny because like Steed is like talking to Ed and he's like, oh, so it's like the theater of fear, right, Ed, or something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, and then Izzy's like, his name is Blackbeard, dog. And then he's like trying to get
Ed Steed walks himself. He's like, looks like there's trouble in paradise.
Yeah, he's like, bye, bitches. He just like pieces out, and then while Izzy's trying to get him off, like, get him off. That sounded weird. He's trying to get him out of the thingy.
He's trying to get him loose.
He's got his head between his legs, and they're just like having like a moment, and then Izzy, like a frustrated ex-girlfriend, just goes like, you think you know everything in the whole world, don't you?
And then he walks off.
And
the next scene you see Ed, he walks below decks and mutters to himself like, that was embarrassing.
Aw, I don't think I saw that.
And I think he references it to him just hanging there for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he goes, you left me hanging out there for 20 minutes. Not bloody optimal.
No, it isn't.
And then Izzy and his minions give Ed a talking to about his perspective on pets aboard the ship. And Fang's like, you remember when you made me like put my dog down?
Yeah, oh, that was so sad.
I know. Ed's like, well, you know, like you got sorry about
no
that,
pets.
I guess. Yeah. He's like,
what about it?
And then Fang just like breaks down.
Yeah.
But they basically said that they think that he's viewing Steed like a pet and that he needs to just get rid of him.
Yeah, Steed needs to go to doggy heaven.
Yeah.
Doggy heaven, yeah, but we go to different heavens. There was Igor. Fuck, what's his name?
The other guy, I forget. I just know Egger.
Egger.
I just know Fang. and then I always forget the other guy's name.
Izzy and
okay, so then the next scene,
Ivan. His name is
okay.
Ivan.
And then in the next scene, Ed and Izzy are like standing next to each other on the outside of the boat, like overlooking, and Izzy's like, "I'll end it, I'll end it." And then Ed's like, "No, it's my thing. I need to do it." And he's like, "I'll probably do it while he's doing something that he loves." And then right after he says that, Steed walks in and he's like,
I've got a really fun idea for a fuckery.
Yeah.
And there's a Dutch merchant ship we're about to pass.
Yeah. And he's like, "We should participate in the Art of Fuckery." And at first, like, Ed's like, "No," like he's like depressed because
like, yes, you go do that.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ed's kind of like looking at him like, "What are you up to, you asshat?" And then Steed has no clue what's going on. He's just like blissfully happy that he gets to do this. And so he like passes Lucius, and he's like, "Lucius, we got a fuckery on our hands."
They're having ideas, right, for the fuckery.
Yeah, the next scene is like they're in their theater room, and I had Steed is trying to teach the kids about theater.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "What's scary?" Or like, "Can you think of some scary ideas?" And this is the part where he like brings up William Shakespeare. But my favorite part in this whole thing is Jim goes, "What if I hack up a dummy with an axe? Maybe like have meat and guts coming out of it?"
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Yeah." And then Buttons is fucking unhinged at this point. He's like, "I've eaten a man's face before. That was actually quite vulgar."
Yeah, and before this, Steed asks what their scariest story is, or their most romantic story or something. And the Swede goes on to this tangent how he was born when it rained blood or something. And Steve was like, "Boring, next."
I didn't even hear that.
And then Buttons goes, "I yearn to make sweet love to the sea." And he's like, "Too personal, next." And Pete's like, "Oh, I have one." And then Steve goes, "Too short," or something like that.
He's just like cutting him off before he even has a chance.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And then Lucius...
No, wait. Roach goes... He's like, "Anybody smell that? It smells kind of like a dead person smell." And then Lucius is like...
passes out.
Yeah. He's like, he faints.
Yeah, his finger's
and it
all
looks
infected.
so gross. It's disgusting. So like the bite from...
Disgusting!
It's so gross. Like, I don't know. They did a really good job of making it look like disgusting. Like it's all swollen and... bleh. And so he passes out, and then the next scene is so fucking funny.
Oh man, this scene. Yeah.
This scene is so funny. So Roach is trying to cut off Lucius's finger. So everybody's like holding him, and they're like, "Is this the last, like, are you sure this is like all we can do?" And Roach is like, "In my professional opinion,
yes." And Fang, he's like, "Hey, wait, I thought you were the cook." Roach is like, "Knives are knives, meat's meat."
Yep. Yeah, he's so funny. Usually, like, Roach is pretty unhinged, but like Buttons just takes over in
the
this
show
episode.
in this one.
Yeah. And then they decide he goes to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Fang says something else really funny. He's like, "He's a visual artist. You can't cut the boy's little fingies."
And it's true. And then he's like, he goes to try to cut it off. And then Lucius wakes up and he realizes what's happening. At first he doesn't. And then as he's running away, Roach is just like, "It's all a dream. It's a dream."
Yeah, come back. Did you know that was improvised?
No, I had no idea, but that's awesome.
Cool, right?
The whole scene was?
I know that "come back, it's all a dream," that was improvised, but I'm not sure how much of the scene was.
I love it, though. That was just like my favorite. It's all a dream.
Also, did you notice how much people keep putting their head on Pete's head?
Putting their head on Pete's head?
Sorry, their hand. They just keep sort of laying their hands on Pete's head.
I didn't even notice that. I think in that episode though, right? Like
like Lucius holds his head when Steed is trying to get stories from them, and then here when Roach says, "In my professional opinion," yes, then he has also his hand on Pete's head, which like, okay, dudes, why do you keep doing this? It's because he's short.
Yeah, it might be that, and also just like he's got a bald head, so it might feel nice.
Yeah,
Just
true.
like
Maybe it's a little stimmy thing for the whole crew.
I wonder if they we should see if they keep doing it or if it's just like this episode and
Oh
they're like, I
yeah.
wonder if anybody would notice if we just keep doing this.
Yeah, we should take note.
It-
Take note.
We'll take a note. Okay. And then the next scene, I forget exactly what Izzy comes in for, but
Oh
like
yeah,
Steed is
Steed is
having
like, Muse, why have you forsaken me? Which is so dramatic, like
and his hair in this episode too is so like
slicked down.
slicked down and like he looks like an artist, like
Yeah.
a director. And then he's dressed in black. It's just like so it's such a mood.
Yeah, he's dressed like that dude from Microsoft.
Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, is this right?
Oh wait, that's the dude from Apple, I
That's
think.
Apple. I was like, wait, is this the same person that you're thinking?
Anyway,
Like,
same story, different version. All are true.
I love it.
Also, this scene, you see how short Izzy is. It's so funny. It's also funny how he just brings Steed right into Ed's arms without him even knowing.
Yeah.
So Izzy's
Yep.
plan literally backfires because he means to not do it, but he does.
Yeah, and like in this scene he's like basically lurking in his room and you can tell like how much they hate each other, and then like while he's having his like little speech or whatever, he's like, Ed adores you, and so you need to perform like it's your last night on Earth or
Yeah.
something like that, or last day on
Oh,
Earth.
I think that
And
was his downfall because Steed had no idea.
yeah, you could tell like it was like the light in his eyes when Izzy said that Ed adored him. Like he just kind of like,
He adores me? Does he?
Gay
Loves
gay
me?
panic, gay panic, gay panic.
He wants to smooch?
Would he like to smooch? He gets like all this gusto because of what Izzy said, so he has all this like excitement about it now. And so then he goes back to the crew after their 20 minutes and he thinks he's gonna
He
like
said that they were gonna have a 20-minute interlude, but
Yeah.
a lengthy 20 or I don't remember how he said it, but
he said something. It was like a specific word, but I can't remember. And so he goes back thinking that he's gonna like change everything and do everything, and then the crew's like, oh no, we got it, like we know what's going to happen, we're good.
we're gonna do the gruesome stuff now.
Yeah, they're like, we thought up a bunch of scary stuff, and the Swede is gonna sing, and like just all this stuff. And so the next scene, Ed is like taking his knife, like like people do with their
the
hands.
finger challenge thing.
Like he's like
yeah,
and he's trying to hype himself up. He's like, you're a killer, man, you're a killer.
Yeah.
He's like trying to help himself hype himself up to kill Steed, but you can just tell he like doesn't really want to do it. And then as he's doing that, Frenchie comes up and he's like, oh yeah, Steed has this like Steed has a like special place for you to go. So he like brings him down, and then he's like, Steed said this is the place for you to watch everything unfold. And it's like behind some curtains.
Yeah, and then the Dutch people arrive, but they sound so German.
I was like, they don't even sound like German. Like honestly, like they just sound stupid. I'm like, what?
I mean, they sound weird.
European. They sound
but
European.
If you want to choose a language, it's gonna be German.
Yeah,
but not Dutch at all. It's so frustrating because like they're Dutch, but they're not Dutch, man.
I think it's frustrating for us. Like if we didn't know Dutch, and if we hadn't, or well, you live in the Netherlands and I lived in the Netherlands. If we had no knowledge of that, we would just watch the episode and be like, ha ha ha, Dutch people.
Yeah,
but. Because we know, we're like, this is wrong.
But you know, there's so many TV shows and movies that do it wrong.
Yep.
We watched a movie recently as well where they were in the Netherlands, but they just spoke German. And then when they went to Germany, they had something written down, but in Dutch. They just mixed it up completely.
Yep, no.
But I guess that it's understandable for Americans.
I guess. like for me it's like so frustrating because like when a Dutch person is speaking English, it's so what is that a Dutch person? I know that's a Dutch person.
Yeah, you can smell it. Because when you were conversing with Michelle, you were also like, oh wait, your accent sounds familiar. Or it was the other way around, that then my accent was familiar or something.
Yeah, no, you guys both sounded like Dutch people, and like I always have to ask because it just sounds like it's either one of two. It's either you're Dutch or you're Afrikaans, and that there's no in between.
Yeah, they're quite similar.
Yeah. Wait, what happens next?
They enter the ship, and then sorry for this whole tangent. And by the way, I know this show is Australian. I was generalizing Merca.
Merkins.
Yeah,
It's okay.
and
You
I
can do
know
that.
there's other things that are correct. I just wanted to do the little disclaimer thingy because I know in Black Sails there's a Dutch ship and they speak perfectly Dutch. So
I need to watch that show. You've been telling me to watch it.
yeah, if you love pirates, you love that show.
Okay.
And there's queer people in there as well. So
Oh, so they're coming on, and Frenchie, I forget what happens first. It's like Steed says something, and then
yeah, when they go on board, there's 3 people. Oh wait, that's the same that what you're saying, right? With the
yeah. So
skull.
I think they're supposed to all be Steed.
Yeah,
because Steed is holding a skull, and then Buttons is holding a skull, or is it the Swede? I forget.
I think it's the Swede and then Pete.
And then Pete, but Pete has a wig on, and the wig
Yeah.
falls off. And then the Dutch person's like, "Is that supposed to be the same person?" Like,
Are they supposed to be the same guy?
yeah. And then it pans over to Frenchie, and Frenchie's a witch, and he's like painted
I'm
in
a
green.
witch, and this is my cat.
And it's Wee John. It's Wee John is okay. Wee John is huge.
Yes.
He's got like cat makeup.
It also
on,
pans out crazily, like to make fun of the size, I think.
I think that obviously like it's supposed to be like one of those juxtapositions. It looks so funny, and then also just like Wee John looks so cute as a kitty. And so they start chasing the Dutch people, I think, and like they bring them into like the main area where Ed is watching.
I think Jim starts it, where they
Yeah.
just rip out the guts of some dummy.
Yeah, and then Buttons is pretending to eat someone's face, and the Dutch people are just like so confused. Like they don't even look scared or anything. They're just
No.
like confused.
You're like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden a very sweaty Lucius comes in, and he's like delirious. I forget what he says.
You can't cut off a finger when there's no finger to cut off.
I forgot. He's so fucking delusional at that point. And then he just cuts his finger off, and then all the Dutch crew is like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and then Steed is also like, "Whoa!" And Ed is like, "How does Steed do this?" And Steed is like,
That's
"Oh,
fucking
I need to
awesome."
ask him later."
Yeah, and all while this is going on, you see Ed in the background with Steed, and they're watching, and he's got a knife to Ed's back, and you can tell he's like trying to prep himself to kill Steed.
Mm-hmm.
But then
to send him to doggy heaven.
Yeah, exactly. And then this okay, so while that's happening, the Swede starts to sing, and then Steed steps out, so he like Ed kind of loses his chance to kill him. And then the big finale is the Kraken.
Oh,
and
looks like the singing maiden has put the evil creature out of the slumber.
yeah,
like
and then all of a sudden it's like this big thing that's just like hitting the window.
Yeah.
And this like makes Ed super emotional, and then he has like a flashback to when he was younger. His dad is like yelling at his mom.
Now you see in this flashback that
Wait, no. It happens later.
Oh, sorry.
That happens later. No, it's okay. It's just like one flashback, and then he just starts like crying, and then he like falls to the ground, and he starts to scoot away. But
now the Dutch people actually are afraid.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, Blackbeard," and then they just like piss off.
Yeah.
And he's literally crying on the floor, like he looks like a baby.
Yeah.
And like they're like, "Fuck, it's Blackbeard," and then they just like they all leave.
It's so funny how he terrifies people while he's just like on the floor crying.
Yep, and then the crew think it's all them, and they're like, "Oh, yay!"
And
then yeah.
Then and also in the background you see how much Fang is having with the crew, and it's just so fun how he's just sort of integrated into their silliness.
You see Ed having more flashbacks, and this is when we see.
Oh, is this where the dad storms off? And then
yeah, so at first you see like Ed as a kid, and his dad is like yelling at his mom and like being like kind of abusive towards her. And then he storms off.
And then Steed comes into the bathroom and he
Mhm.
asks how Ed is doing. And Ed sort of explains the whole plan, how he was gonna basically murder Steed, but he doesn't want to do it. And he's like, oh, I only killed one time. And I think this is what you were gonna say.
Yeah, it's like two separate flashbacks. So like once Steed is in the room, he has another flashback where he's like, it wasn't the Kraken that killed my dad, and he goes, it was me. And you see him as a kid like
strangling his dad.
And so he like in my opinion, like mentally he compartmentalized that and disassociated himself from it and like put it on the Kraken, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he also refers to himself as the Kraken.
Yeah.
After this, because
which comes
like
back a lot in art as well.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's like a very like sad but beautiful,
it's poetic
thing about him. Yeah, it is very poetic. And then he's like, I've never killed anybody aside from my dad. Steve's like, well, that's not true. Like you've maimed a couple people. He's like, yeah, but you know, usually has other people kill people.
I love a good maim, but I always sort of outsource the big job.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's like, I'm not a good person. And like this is when I started to like kind of tear up because Ed is crying. Also, in this entire scene, Ed is sitting in
a bathtub. Yeah.
He's like sitting in one of those old school tubs.
With I think one of Steed's ropes over him.
Oh yeah, probably. I forgot. He's like cuddling something, but he's like in a ball in like the fetal position, and it's so sad. And like he just does such a good job of acting during this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm not a good person, and that's why I don't have any friends. And then Steed goes, I'm your friend.
Yeah, and it's like, no.
And he's like, no, I am. And he's like, why don't we just forget about this whole murder thing? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, if you can do it, I can do it. And he's like, I would like that very much. And he's like, I'd love that.
Yeah,
let's forget.
Like, yes, I would love to forget that you wanted to murder me. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Steed holds out his hand, and Ed lays his head on his hand, and that's so soft.
It's just like such a wholesome like moment, and like you can tell he was really struggling. Like he really cares about Steed, and Steed really cares about him. Like this is where I was having a hard time watching it for the first time, because I'm like, I know that there's more there than they're showing, but I still didn't know like how far this show was going to take it.
Yeah. So you were like, are they just teasing, or?
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, it's just going to be like Good Omens, where it's like, you know that there's this tension between them, but you never see anything happening. And so I was just a little curious, but also a little bit frustrated. I'm like, if they fucking do this to us again, do this to us again. But in this episode, there is payoff. There's gay payoff. So after that, they go out, and he tells the crew that they did a great job. And like the crew is like over the moon that Blackbeard even like gave a shit.
Yeah.
Like that they thought.
Oh yeah,
like
he was like, oh, I was so scared. And they were like,
yeah.
Oh, but I thought you didn't feel fear. Well, but I do now. They're just like, wow. My fear.
Yeah, my favorite reaction to that is Black Pete's, because his eyes are just like, whoa, we did that? Whoa, it's so cute.
Yeah. This whole cruise is so very cute.
Yeah. So Izzy tells Steed that he needs to draw his sword, right? And he's like, I fucking challenge you to a fucking duel. A fucking duel.
Yeah. And then they do, and Izzy Ed is like,
no,
let's not do this now. And Izzy's like, well, you're not doing this, I am.
Exactly. And then Izzy tells Steed that whoever doesn't die has to be banished from the ship, right? Yeah. Whoever lives. Wait.
Whoever wins the duel.
Whoever loses has to.
The loser has to abandon ship.
Yeah, exactly. They gotta fuck off. And so they start to duel.
Yeah.
And
did you hear Frenchie's commentary throughout?
I don't know.
Frenchie's commentary is gold.
Tell me.
When they start dueling, he's like, that's nice. Wiggle the hips. And then Izzy slaps Steed or something, and he's like, "Oh, you cheeky bitch."
I love that. Oh,
Or
French.
the one day is like, "Do it now!" He yells that to Steed, and then
Yeah.
Steed slaps Izzy on his butt. Which, like, that's not what he meant at all.
You know what it is? Like, Steed is just too wholesome.
Well, he learned it from Ed, right?
Yeah.
So he was like,
yeah.
"Oh, this is the move that I got to use."
And so they're still dueling, and somehow Izzy ends up like swiping.
Yeah, Izzy stabs Steed.
Yeah, he knocks Steed's sword down, and then he basically has him in like he has him cornered, and then
position.
Yes. And Steve's like, why don't we call it a draw? And then Izzy's like, nah, I'm good. And then he stabs him. But right before he stabs him, he moves. And Ed looks away. But then Steed goes,
Did I do that?
Did I do it right? It's like, did I miss all the important bits?
Yeah.
And then he's like, what the fuck, you fucking... He calls him like a something rat. I forget what it is. I should have written it.
I also didn't write it down.
But he's like pissed because he can't get the sword out because it's like stuck in the fancy wood. Mm-hmm. So he ends up breaking the handle. Uh-huh. And at that point, I feel like it's...
Yeah, buttons is like your sword is inoperable, so you're disqualified.
And then Frenchie comes in and he's like,
in your face, Jesse!
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's Frenchie, you comedy goal.
You cheeky bitch.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, and he's basically like, oh, Steed wins. And then, so Izzy is banished from the ship.
Yeah.
So the next scene is...
He's sort of pecking on the ship, or he's looking angrily up, and he's like, at like, oh, is this really how it's going to end? Ed's like, yeah. So
yeah, he doesn't care.
You can go now.
Like I think he's done with Izzy's shit. And then Roach throws Izzy a sandwich.
Yeah, he's like, I made you a sandwich for the trip. And then he just throws it to genuinely be nice, but it ends up slapping against his face.
And then it like falls in the water.
Yeah, and
I think
it's Ivan, John? I think, that who was like, oh, I would have eaten that.
Yeah. It's like one of those moments in the show where you just like, it's seared in your brain and it's just hitting him in the face. It's like, and then it knocks
the
in
first
the water.
time I watched this episode, I rewinded that so much.
I did too. That's so funny. Like, Andrew and I were watching it together and I was laughing so hard I had to watch it again.
Yeah. It's so dumb and simple, but it's just so funny.
So then Fang has a moment where Lucius gives him his finger.
Oh, yeah.
And then he has like this little speech about the finger, and then he tosses it overboard.
Be gone, you wretched thing, or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden, like, Black Pete comes up to Lucius, and they have like a little moment. He's like, actually, like, I was really scared that I was going to lose you. This is what Black Pete's saying.
Yeah.
And then Black Pete, like, he's like, I made you a little something, and like it's like in a box, and Lucius opens it. And it's a wooden finger. And he's like, I whittled it. It's really stupid. And then...
Yeah, and then Lucius is like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And he's like, well, I've a lot of secrets.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this is it.
But it's so cute. And then they have like this little wholesome moment, and then they kiss. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, because it was like the first moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that was when I was like, okay, maybe they might tip the scales.
This
on
isn't
the show.
A regular queer baiting show.
No, because they had already been insinuated that they were a couple, or it had already been insinuated, but we hadn't seen any like
on-screen action.
Yeah,
that sounds so weird, but
well, it's just so hard to find anything that's like, you know, straight up just gay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And all the while, Steed is still stuck. He's still stabbed, and he's still like stuck in between, like with the fancy wood. And so Lucius comes over and he's like, I would really, really like to get out of this now. And he's like, okay, I'll find someone.
Just keep breathing.
He's like, yeah, just keep breathing. Like, basically, it's okay, girl. Like, I got you. You know?
Yeah. And then you just see Izzy just angrily rowing off, which is so fun. He's like,
yeah, he's like super pissed off.
Yeah.
And then the very last scene is with I forget
with
name.
Spanish Jackie and that's
Jackie.
Yeah.
So they're
no.
I forget what his name is, but the funny comedian guy. They're talking about like different things that they can do with the tavern or whatever it is called.
He's like, we need to have a food menu, and Jackie's like, but that requires staff and food cooking and all that stuff. You think Jackie's got time for that?
She's like, what do you think I pay you for? Like, she's just like really pissed off. And then all of a sudden from the side, Izzy comes in and he's like, I've got a proposal for you two. And then they have conversation. And that's the end of the episode. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Woo, we got through it. High five. Boom. We did it.
Hell yeah.
We're like 8,000 miles away from each other or something, I think.
I'm 8,000 miles if I could just see you tonight.
I love you. Oh, it would be so cool if one day we could actually like meet up and have like
Dude,
we could record together.
Imagine
like in the room.
Wow, that would be so cool.
It would be so chaotic.
That too, but it would be so cool, man.
You're like, it would be cool. I'm like, it'll be a disaster. What I was gonna say about Fang is that after Izzy leaves, I feel like Fang is gonna be more himself.
Yeah.
Because Izzy kind of kept them under wraps, right? And like, I feel like now that he's not there, I feel like the crew kind of, I don't know, maybe they're going to have a little bit more fun. I actually forget what the next episode is. And like, that's kind of a cool part. Yeah. It's like kind of cool because now the next time I watch it, it's going to be like, I really get to like relive the episode over.
Oh, I think Jack Rackham comes, but I'm not sure.
Oh, the annoying guy.
Yeah, Calico Jack.
Fuck. We don't get a break, do we?
The dude that they cast really well, but also kind of
plays
sucks
the annoying.
Because it's like
he plays it
Jack
so
Rackham
good.
I imagine, but he really plays it really well.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like everyone's acting. This is the thing. Like it's supposed to be a comedy, right? But you have these moments that are like not comedy-esque. Like there's romance, there's emotional, there is action. Like they do it so well in a way that like it really is an all-encompassing show. Like I know that overall it's supposed to be like a comedy, but it really fills all the little ticks that you want in a show.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, all in all, this was definitely my favorite episode.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
But I think we say that about every episode.
No, this is for sure the one. Mark it.
Okay.
Put it on my tombstone. It'll be like River Hemmons died, I don't know, probably soon. And then it's like
no, don't say that.
Our flag means death. The Art of Fuckery, episode 6. All right. So this concludes episode 6 for you guys. I hope you had a good time listening to us. I hope you enjoyed the show. We hope that you continue listening and that you get excited for the next one. Boo, 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 boo.
You're so much fun.
I'm being so annoying.
Oh, man.
I just saw your face and I was like, does she hate me right now?
No, I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for being here, guys.
Yeah.
Have a great one. Doei.
Alright. Doei.
How did we end this?
Oh, you volgende keer bij ons.
Dank u wel.
Oh, also, for anyone listening, Lizzie's accent is a Dutch accent.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
En dit is Nederlands, lieve schatten. Groetjes!